All right, for 18 through 21, they want us to perform the indicated operation. So looking at number 20 here, the signs are different. So we'll subtract. We'll keep the sign of the larger, so the answer will be positive. And when you subtract, you always have to put the larger number on top. So let's see, we've got 10 and 3/10 on top, 9 and 72/100 sitting beneath, and we're supposed to subtract. Again, our answer will be positive. But I cannot subtract 2 from air. I'm going to need a 0 here. If I put in a 0, do I change the value of 10 and 3/10? It's basically still 10 and 3/10. Perhaps you would read it as 10 and 30/100. But 30 over 100 would reduce to 3/10. So anyway, I can put in a 0. How's that for the long way to the simple point? All right, and now we want to do our subtraction. So borrow 1 from the 3. Not big enough. So I can't borrow from 0. You borrow from that, from the 1, it becomes a 0. Bring it over here. Got to keep going. Borrow 1 from 10, you get 9. So there's 12. Subtract 7, you're left with 5. And 9 subtract 9 would be 0. So that's the solution. And now we'll take a look at number 22. Slide this up here. See if I can cover that up a little. All right, for number 22, they want us to multiply. And even if they didn't tell us that, if you have parentheses next to parentheses, that's math shorthand for multiply. All right. When multiplying with decimals, you don't have to worry about lining up your decimals. In this case, they'll just line up by default. But all you have to do is worry about counting the decimal places once you finish. So we have, let's say, 2/100 multiplied by 8/100. So 8 times 2 is 16. Carry your 1. 8 times 0 is 0, plus 1. That was interesting. Okay, and now you all you have to do is count the decimal places. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 digits behind the decimal. So you start here and move in 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Put your decimal, and you'll have to hold each space with a 0. Okay, at least you have to hold your blank spaces with zeros. So the final result is 16 10,000ths. Okay. We'll take a look at number 24. And I think this will basically all fit up here. All right, so what we're given here is negative divided by a positive. So the answer is going to be negative. And I'm just going to keep that in mind and put the negative in front of my answer. It gets kind of confusing to keep up with it in the middle of your calculation. All right, so this is 1 8/10. So let's see, I'll slide this down a little. 1 8/10 divided by 2/100. And when you're dividing, you cannot have a decimal out in front. So I'm going to need to move this 2 places. And to keep things balanced, I just changed the value of this from 2/100 to 2. Okay, so in mathematics, you're allowed to change the way things look, but you can't change the actual value. So to make sure I don't really change the relationship from here to here, I have to basically perform the same operation right here. So if I move this decimal 2 places, I have to move this decimal 2 places. Remember, you always have to tell the world where the decimal is. Okay. Essentially what I did is I multiplied by 100 and I multiplied by 100. You will need a 0 to hold that decimal place. And perhaps we'll extend this a little bit. All right. So 2 goes into 18 9 times. Nothing left over, but you have to use up all your digits. So you bring down your 0. Every time you bring down a digit, you have to ask and answer, how many times does 2 go into 0? 0 times. And remember, we had negative divided by a positive, so our answer is negative 90. All right. Next, we'll take a look at, let's see, that was 24. So we're going to look at 27. This will keep us busy for a few minutes here. All right. Divide and round the quotient as indicated. All right, so 27. I'm going to zoom out 1 just to read the whole thing. Divide 3 47/100ths by 31 thousandths and round the quotient to the nearest hundredth. Okay, that rounding sometimes comes in handy if the decimal just keeps going forever. It lets you stop. All right, so let me get this all lined up nicely here and in focus. All right, the first step is setting this up correctly. So we have 3 47/100ths. Well, I think I'm going to just put this on another piece of paper. So here is our 3 47/100ths divided by 31 thousandths. And just as before, I indicated you cannot perform this division with a decimal out in front. So if I move this 3 spaces, I have to keep it balanced by moving this 3 spaces. You always have to tell the world about the decimal point. I'll need a 0 to hold that position, and then I can start dividing. All right. So let's see, 31 goes into 34 1 time. 3 left over. Bring down your next digit. 31 goes into 37 1 time. Bring down your next digit. 31 goes into 60, not even twice, right? Because twice would be 62. So again, it's 1 time. I'm going to have to start writing a little smaller. I'll run off my page real fast. So there's 29. Okay. And I'm supposed to keep going. Remember, I'm going to round to the hundredths. All right. So that means I have to come out here to the thousandths place. All right. So I'll need to slide this up. And I'm probably going to have to zoom out 1. Hopefully not too much more, but we'll see what happens. All right, so notice I've run out of digits here. I want to keep going, and I don't have any more digits, so I'm allowed to put in zeros because I'm not changing the value of the number. All right, if you're after the decimal point, you can put in zeros all day long. All right, let's extend this and get back to our division. So I bring down a 0. 31 into 290. 10 times 31 would be 310. So I'm going to try 9 times 31. So we'll do that over here. So that'd be 9, and 9 times 3 is 27, so that'll work. And there's our 1, our 1. Bring down your next digit. 110, 3, 6, 9. It'll be 3 times, and that'll give us 93. I have to zoom out again. So there's our 7, 17. Bring down our last 0. So 31 into 170. 5 times 3 is 15. So 5 times 30 would be 150. So it's going to be 5 times, and that would give us 153. I really don't have to proceed anymore. Remember, I'm rounding to the thousand. I'm rounding to the nearest hundredth. Let me move this down. I'm rounding to the nearest hundredth. Here's my hundredth place. All I need to know is this digit 0 through 4, I would round down. 5 through 9, I would round up. So I know I'm going to round up. Okay, so let me slide this back up. And just to underscore, I don't really have to even do the calculation here. So 5 times 31, that would be 155, but I don't have to mess with it. So I'm just going to ignore that. This will round. Let's see. If we're going to our nearest hundredth, I stand here, I look at my next digit. I'm going to round up. So I will get for my final answer. Okay. And let's see, we can take a look at 29 as well. And let me zoom in a little bit. Had to back way up for that. And what were we saying? Number 29? Alright, here we go. Okay, first concern is parentheses. And you have parentheses, but there's really nothing within them to solve or simplify. So then we move on to exponent, and lo and behold, we have an exponent of 2. So that tells us that we have 2 sets of parentheses. So I think I'm going to work vertically more or less. I'll do my work off to the side, and then I'll put the result directly underneath the problem. Okay? So this 2 touches the parentheses. That tells me I have 2 sets of parentheses with negative 2.1 in each one. So I'm going to have to multiply. And usually when I multiply, I stack things up. So let's do that. And negative times a negative will be a positive. All right. So we have 2 1/10 times 2 1/10. That's 2, that's 4. And you have to count the decimal places. So that means you have to move in 2. So we get 4 41/100ths. All right. So underneath there, I'm going to put 4 41/100ths. And now I just bring down whatever I haven't used. So there's positive 8 7/10. And the negative 1 2/10. Okay. Now there's a variety of ways you could go. I'll just combine my 2 positives here. That seems simple enough. So again, I usually slip off to the side to do my calculations. So 4 41/100ths, I'm going to add 8 and 7/10. I could put a 0 here to hold this position, just to underscore that. I could put a 0 here, but when you're adding, it's not really critical as long as you don't lose track of any places. And with addition subtraction, I should have done a better job of lining these up, because you have to line up your decimals. Okay, in my answer, the decimal is going to stay in line. All right, and now you just simply add. So here's let's see, that's 11. Carry your 1, 12, 13. All right, so I have combined these two. I get 13 and 11/100ths. I have a train going by out there. Hope it's not too noisy. And let's just bring down what we haven't touched yet. The negative 1 and 2/10. Make that a little more clear. So now when we subtract, subtract smaller from the larger, keep the sign of the larger. So we will have that right here. 13 11/100ths. I'm going to subtract 1 and 2/10. I'll put in a 0. So there's a 9. And this 1. Don't forget about it. So we have 11 and 91/100ths as our solution. And let's see what the next one is. It's going to be 33. I'll start the next video for these percents.